I Am Legend is almost a great film. Will Smith's performance is captivating. There are scenes genuinely hard to watch on account of how tense they are. Sam's death is heartbreaking, and not in a lazy, we're going to kill the dog to make you sad way. Every emotion you feel here is completely earned. After 3 years of isolation, our protagonist is no nearer to finding a cure for the disease that has ripped away every element of normality, and now, after a build-up across 2 acts, seeing how important Sam is as a companion, he's forced to kill her. In this scene, he loses way more than just a dog. Also, it's his fucking birthday. And in addition to everything else, the scale is really impressive, especially for way back in 2007. They really managed to create an otherworldly feeling in New York. It has its own identity. And I say way back in 2007 because 2007 was 15 years ago and my childhood is over and I will die soon. Oh yeah, one other thing about this film, no one talks about it. In the wider world of pop culture and media criticism, I Am Legend is mostly forgotten. So, poorly dated CGI version of me during summer aside, why did this film fall into the void of obscurity? Well, you might have noticed at the start of this video, I said I Am Legend is almost a great film. And I believe there is one very specific element stopping it from earning that title, which has greatly contributed to it being forgotten. But in order to explore this properly, we're going to have to take a quick peek at the film's source material, Richard Matheson's 1954 horror novel, I Am Legend. Also, look at what we nearly had before they went CGI. Imagine how much better the film would have held up. Okay, just move on. The book follows Robert Neville during the fallout of a vampire uprising, locked inside his house each night as the creatures prowl about and attempt to lure him outside. The book was written during the civil rights movement in America and is absolutely full of themes exploring race, prejudice, and identity. And we're kind of poked into thinking that Robert Neville, bit of a racist. Maybe. Of course, it makes sense for Neville to dislike the vampires. Vampires try and suck your blood. That ain't no good. Pesky vampires.
Pesky bee?
But the intense hatred Neville harbours is almost perverted. He frequently refers to them as filthy or dirty bastards. The venom he has when he says this stuff almost comes off like he's using a slur, and the chapter in which he rips a female vampire from her resting place to perform an experiment shows an incredibly brutal side to his character. Alright, she's suffering, he argued with himself, but she's one of them. It sounds, ironically, very predatory. In his eyes, they are lesser beings. He is eventually attacked and imprisoned by an evolved set of these vampires, capable of existing in and wanting to rebuild some form of society. He is to have no part in the society and is set to be executed because they're scared of him. Abruptly, that realization joined with what he saw on their faces: awe, fear, shrinking horror, and he knew they were afraid of him. He was an invisible spectre who had left for evidence of his existence the bloodless bodies of their loved ones. To them, he is the bogeyman that came into their houses and drove stakes through the hearts of their families and loved ones. The figure that parents would probably use to discipline their kids, you better finish that veg or Will Smith will murder you as you sleep. And so he dies, accepting that he has now become the prey, the feared creature that must be killed, the minority in a world of vampires. And that is why he declares, I Am Legend.
He said it!
Now, let's compare this to the 2007 adaptation. On a purely surface level, it changed a lot. Most notably, the vampires were changed to Darkseekers, which are essentially zombies who happen to hate the sun, just like vampires, but not vampires, because zombies are what were printing money back in 2007. Also, oops, post-2020, people are now seeing this as an anti-vax movie, I guess. But also, if you can argue that, then I think I can argue the original SpongeBob movie is anti-oxygen. The location was changed to New York, affording the filmmakers more visually interesting and familiar scenery, and we gave him a dog called Sam. Everyone likes dogs. But also, this allows Neville to expel a good amount of exposition without the need for an original Blade Runner cut of ongoing narration, whilst also giving us some insight into what he's thinking and his state of mind. But these surface level changes are not what stole away the film's opportunity from being truly great. If anything, they probably helped translate the story to a more film-centric language. The core of Neville's emotional journey and the story's subtext remain the same. Through flashbacks, we see Neville's family are dead, and throughout the film, he struggles to remain optimistic in his pursuit of a cure for the Darkseekers. He, like his novel counterpart, abducts female Darkseekers in order to experiment on them. As the film goes on and his efforts continue to produce fruitless results with the women dying, Neville's sense of self and mental stability continue to be stretched.
If you're real, you better tell me right now! If you're real, you better tell me right now! Damn it, Fred!
Eventually resulting in a series of events where he is forced to kill Sam, following her being bitten by a dark barker. That's my term, I just made it up, pay me the royalties. And the character hits his breaking point in a genuinely heartbreaking sequence.
Please say hello to me.
Lonelier than ever, and with no hope for a better future, he attempts suicide by zombie, waiting out in his car after sunset for a herd of Darkseekers to attack him. However, he is saved by a woman and her son, and following the safe return to his house, they are attacked once again. Neville and his new companions bunker down in this military-enforced greenhouse, only to see his antidote succeeded. The Darkseeker is cured. He begs for the Darkseekers to listen to him, to let him help them, but they don't care. And then a Darkseeker sprawls the shape of a butterfly onto the glass. Neville pauses before turning to the woman on the table, revealing the tattoo of a butterfly on her thigh. And in that moment, Neville's humanity returns. His behaviour is put into perspective.
What are you doing?
I'm listening.
He has lived for so many years in such a cruel and unforgiving world, his sole aim of curing what he views as a sickness prioritized above all else, so much so that he deprived the people he was trying to help of any compassion, emphasized by the visual of a wall covered in photos of previous victims to his experiments.
Did all of them die?
Yes.
You think that can cure her?
No, this will almost certainly kill it.
Neville opens the door and wheels out the woman he essentially kidnapped, returning her to the Darkseeker, who, upon embracing what is clearly a wife or partner, leaves Neville by himself once again, with the realization that, just like in the book, he is the bogeyman to the Darkseekers, the monster that comes for them in the darkness to abduct and experiment. He othered this group of people so much that he didn't even stop to think as to whether these were intelligent, sentient people capable of fear, love, or the ability to say, "Hey, we don't want your help, you fucking creep, leave us alone." And they demonstrated this intelligence earlier in the film, replicating the trap Neville had made in order to abduct the woman, using the mannequin as a distraction and entrapping him. But Neville never acknowledged this clear sign of intellect and awareness.
The infected didn't do this. They can't. They have no higher brain function. They don't plan or hate. They don't love. They can't.
Finally, the film concludes with Neville and his new family leaving New York for good in a search for other humans, and hopefully that can be his new legacy, something to replace the cruelness and brutality, forming a new society with a reinstalled sense of kindness and compassion, something he has been living without for a very long time. Except, and prepare to be gaslit, that's not what happens. In the officially released cut of I Am Legend, Robert locks himself into the glass bunker, sees the cure worked, begs the Darkseekers to let him help them, sees the glass crack into the shape of a giant butterfly as a result of the impact from the monsters outside, reminding him of his dead daughter, before turning to the mother and her son and deciding, no more dead kids, locking them into a conveniently sized safe built into the wall, pulling a grenade from a nearby drawer and running headfirst into the Darkseekers, killing them and himself. The woman then proceeds to drive out of New York and reach a base where she shares Neville's cure with the survivors, and that is his legacy. This is what stripped I Am Legend of its opportunity to be great, and it's fucking bizarre. The film was clearly made with the intention of using what is now referred to as the alternative ending, where Neville learns from and rectifies his mistakes. Throughout the runtime, we see glimpses of Neville becoming more and more unstable in his pursuit to cure the Darkseekers, his sense of obligation driven by the guilt of his own family's death.
If you leave tomorrow at dawn, we can make it to Vermont in a straight shot. So if you head...
I'm not leaving. This is ground zero. This is my site. I'm not gonna let this happen. I can still fix this.
And this sense of purpose makes him unstable and aggressive, highlighted most clearly when finally interacting with other people.
The virus couldn't survive the cold. There's a hope.
Every single person that you or I has ever known is dead! Dead!
There's even room to argue that Neville brings all of the misfortune he experiences in this film upon himself as a result of this unrelenting drive. The only occasions where we see him attacked by the Darkseekers are when he puts himself in harm's way by entering their living space, which by the way would probably go for about $3,000 in London, and every instance after that, the trap they set for him, attacking him on the dock, invading his house, this is all after he snatched away one of their own. What I'm trying to say is, Neville started beef, but the official theatrical ending undoes all of this, depicting them as mindless monsters who need to be Michael Bay'd in order to be stopped, ignores the setup earlier in the film that these are intelligent people, and it ignores the clear signs that Neville has grown to be a somewhat violent and unhinged individual the longer he's been left by himself, skewing his morals and judgments. It tells us that Neville's instinct to other these people was correct, actually, and confirms the prejudices he has about them. Despite all the superficial changes, the location, the characters, the creatures, even the genre, it's this ending that truly separates the film from its source material. With the alternative ending, I Am Legend would have been an interesting action film with something to say, superficially different to the book, but almost identical in its core principles and thematics. The official ending almost makes everything that came before it redundant. Neville doesn't go through any change, the build-up was all for nothing, and his story is muddied by this boring action cliche of self-sacrifice for the greater good, and ironically neuters the film's own legacy. And that, in my opinion, is probably why the film goes mostly forgotten in the wider scope of media and pop culture. Despite some truly fantastic acting from Will Smith, impressive scale and storytelling, the focus group test audience generated ending does the whole thing a complete disservice. Even Will Smith has hinted that the film left him slightly dissatisfied, although Smith was disappointed more so because he wondered if the change in ending might have made the film 80 million on its opening weekend opposed to 77 million, so yeah, whatever. So, thanks for watching. Do you like I Am Legend as it is? Do you prefer the alternative cut? Did you even know there was an alternative cut? Let me know in the comments down below. Until next time, bye, 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 bye.